Okay. Not a whole lot on the log today. One aggravated assault, that was a strangulation case. Burglaries, we had a garage, a couple of apartments, and a business that were entered. No arrests on any of those. Disorderlies, one was a probation hold, the other was a trespassing report. Embezzlement were cars that were loaned out. Family disputes are basically just reports, nothing big from those. Frauds, we had some wallets and checks. Larcenies, that's kind of a random everything. Some shopliftings, cell phones, some scrap metal, catalytic converter, just kind of a little bit of everything. Narcotics, no big quantities on those. The sex offenses, we got quite a few reports and a sex offender that didn't register. We did have one where a guy groped a person, was arrested. Simple assaults and domestics, and the vandalisms were cars that were damaged, and then a couple of graffiti reports in there. And that's it for the log, unless you guys have any questions.
Any homicide updates?
Nothing new on the homicide, still investigating, still looking for more information, but
Do you have any further details on yesterday's, I guess, the press release you sent out about that arrest made, that man?
the guy at the schools,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's really not much more. I heard a little bit, I guess, of chatter, I guess, from people that were wondering why that information wasn't put out sooner, and it was basically that we hadn't put those together. We had two different officers, two different times, two different schools, and so we had this information but didn't realize that they were connected. And so
Both incidents on Friday?
what's that?
Both incidents?
Both of them, yeah. The first one was, I believe, 7:20 in the morning, and that one, the guy was outside school, was basically trying to get a kid to come with him. A teacher saw that, stepped in between them, and told the guy to leave, and he left. And then, so they called, and there was video at the school, and we didn't know who the person was. The second one was in the afternoon, and it was basically the same thing. The guy was on school grounds and trying to get a kid to come with him. A staff member stepped in and told him to leave, and he left. And so it was after that second one, a different officer was looking into that and then had the information, started basically doing some checking and found out that it may have been related to the earlier one, and that's when they found out that it was the same person. And so it was late Friday, I think it might have actually been over the weekend that they made that connection, and so they're still working on that. And then that information went out to police officers, and then we had some other officers that found him on Monday afternoon, and he was arrested on those charges.
Any reports of any unusual activity maybe related to that Monday morning?
No other reports related to that. Even before that, before Friday, we didn't have anything similar to that. We didn't have any calls about him on Monday at all. He didn't grab a kid. He didn't try to get hold of a kid. He was trying to get the kids to come with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's two different charges, or actually three charges, but the two primary ones was enticing a minor child and then kidnapping. And one of the subsections of kidnapping is trying to entice a person or a minor to go with them. And so that's why we had those charges. So it's not like he grabbed a kid. It's not like he he didn't have any contact, but it's not like he forcefully grabbed him and was trying to take him. He was trying to get them to come with him.
So both charges were for the attempt of that?
Right, both charges were for that enticing part of the laws. Anything else?
I suppose, with these incidents, is this, it's always a good time to be talking with families, with children about, school safety and, things they should be doing. I mean, is this kind of a good reminder as well for parents and, families to be going over these sorts of things? I'm sure, the school districts will also be spreading that information out as well.
Yeah, I think parents can use this as an example to teach their kids what to do if they're put in a situation like that. And I guess I'll preface that this is probably, I would guess, a parent's worst nightmare is to have a stranger trying to get their kid, but the reality is these types of things are extremely rare. We've seen things over the years where kids are walking to school, to or from school, and somebody follows them or somebody drives by in a car and says something to them, that's probably a little bit more common. And sometimes we've been able to track down people that, hey, I was looking to give them a ride, it was cold out or raining out or whatever, and really we're trying to do something nice, but the fact is it's a stranger to that kid. And so I think parents do a good job of explaining that stuff to kids, but it's a good chance to just kind of review that of what to do. And if they see somebody that they don't know that's trying to talk to them, if there's something that doesn't seem right, they need to go tell a trusted adult. They need to go find a safe place, whether that's at a business or a friend's house or a neighbor's house, and they need to report that to police right away. And I add on that last part about telling police right away, because we've seen this before where there's been somebody that's tried to talk to a kid and then we get notified 3-4 hours later, and it's incredibly hard to try to track down anybody. If we would be notified sooner, there's a chance we may be able to find somebody if they're still in the area. So but it's always a good reminder for parents to have that conversation with kids, what to do, maybe give them some different situations. If you're walking on the street and a car comes along, you can turn around and walk the opposite direction of the car. It's easier for somebody walking to turn around and go the direction as opposed to a car trying to turn around. A lot of kids, not necessarily the real young kids, but a lot of the kids have cell phones. Let them know that there's certainly times when it's appropriate to call 911. That would be a good time to call 911. They don't have to always talk to mom or dad first before they call. It's just really being aware of your surroundings and then reporting things that don't seem right.
Is there a reason, I guess, police chose to not release information until after the fact that he was arrested on Monday instead of over the weekend?
I think the charges are certainly serious, but the fact is we didn't really know what he was doing. He didn't grab a kid. There was no contact with the kid. It's kind of a fine line when we're investigating crime, how much information we want to put out ahead of time. Some of that stuff could cause a panic, could cause unnecessary concern, or I don't want to say panic, but people could be certainly alarmed. In this thing, maybe we could have put that something out over the weekend. We had officers, all the school resource officers were aware of this, and so they were monitoring their schools and looking for this behavior, and I guess you'd have to check with the school district, but my guess is probably the school district, public and private, were aware of this as well since it happened there. But it's one of those things that once we identified the guy, we wanted to find him and get him arrested. We were able to do that, but we also want to let people know, and there was some, the school district Sioux Falls School District sent something out, and there was, I don't know if there was people talking about it or not, but we wanted to let people know that he had been arrested, and so there really, at that point, was no reason for alarm or concern.
Is there any context on what he was saying to these children?
What he was saying was, and I don't have all of those details, it's basically just kind of the pieces that some of the teachers heard, but it was just basically trying to get them to come with him, and that was really the gist of it.
In some of these, I guess, previous cases where it's similar incidents, it's usually family member or, non-custodial parent trying to communicate with the children. Was that the case here, or was this just...
No, this guy had no connection to the children at all. I think in both cases he kind of wandered around a little bit on school property before trying to get the kids to come with him. I don't know that we've had anything quite like this before, nothing that I could recall off the top of my head where we had a stranger that was on school property trying to get kids to come with him. I know over the years we've seen different things. Probably most common is kids walking in a neighborhood, like I said, before or after school. We've seen suspicious vehicles that have been reported and like outside schools, and turns out that it was a relative or a family member, but in a different vehicle, and people didn't recognize that vehicle. So there's all kinds of different things that could happen, but what happened on Friday is extremely rare.
Now, when you say on school property, do we mean like edge of school property on the playground, or was he in the building?
I don't, neither time, he was on property. I don't know exactly where he was on the property, but neither instance was he able to get into the buildings.
Okay.
So this all happened outside on school property.
I think that's it for me, sir.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Nicole, do you have any questions?